Well, some people just need a reality check when it comes to understanding their retirement. So today, we're going to explore why a realistic approach to retirement, inclusive of financial planning and the potential for unexpected challenges, is crucial.
Welcome to the My Retirement Clarity Podcast, where our goal is simple: to help you close the gap between what you know and what you implement. The team at Perkins Wealth Management does this by helping good people make great decisions so they can enjoy an amazing retirement. And now, here's your host and financial advisor, Lee Perkins.
Well, glad to have you inside My Retirement Clarity. I'm Ben George with Lee Perkins, owner and financial advisor at JL Perkins Wealth Management there in Macon, Georgia. Lee, what's going on?
Not a whole lot, man. Good to talk to you. We're like we talked about last time. Spring has sprung, and we're glad to have better weather than we've had recently.
Yeah, we're recording this during the Masters, and I know you probably have it on in the background, right?
It is. It may or may not be on the big TV here in my office. I got the volume down. I'm trying not to look at it as we record this. But yeah, it's a great time of the year.
Yeah, you're only 2 hours away from Augusta, so I know people that might come in the office. They understand if it's on the TV, kind of like if George is on. Yep,
they know it's a way of life during this time of year. And I had a client come in last week, and he's like, "Yeah, well, I get 6 badges every year, and we got the same group that goes." I'm like, "Man, you got to remember your advisor. You got to take care of your advisor."
One day that's going to pay off for sure.
I hope so.
Well, look, Lee, I think today is going to be a good conversation because I want to really just kind of peel back and speak the truth about retirement planning, because I think a lot of people just have these expectations about what retirement should look like, how they think it should go, but that's not always the reality, is it?
No, it's really not. Retirement is different for everybody. And I remember early on when I started the podcast, the logo for the podcast is still similar, but it's basically a picture of sunglasses. In one lens, it was a picture of like a beach theme. I think right now both lenses are beach, and on the other lens, I put a mountain, kind of a mountain theme to it. And the tagline was, because retirement, is different for everybody. But because people have different expectations, sometimes that makes it a little bit difficult to plan, but you just need to do what's right for you. There are people that want to go and do, but there are others that don't want to go and do anything. But I think nowadays in our minds, I think society sort of tells us that retirement is a lot different now than it was 20 years ago. And I would say that's probably true to some extent. 25 years ago, very few people had what I would call vacation homes. I remember being a kid, I had 2 friends growing up. One of them had a lake house on Lake Sinclair, and one of them had a place in Hilton Head. And man, I was like, God, they are loaded. And I'm 12 years old, so I didn't know what loaded meant back then. But I thought if they had lake house money or beach house money, like, where's your jet? They probably had jet money too. But I can now look back at that and see that they weren't super ultra wealthy. They were very well off, of course, but it just wasn't as common back then to have a second house. But nowadays, there's a lot of people that have second homes. My parents, they would have never had a second house. Because they don't travel like that. But I could see my mom maybe wanting a permanent room at a casino or something like that, because that's what they like to do, but certainly not a lake house. And I think companies nowadays they're probably better at marketing vacation destinations. Really, really cool places that are attainable for a lot of people to do. And so what I see in the real world is people, they retire, as long as both of them retire at the same time, they got a short bucket list of some places they want to go to, maybe not always extravagant travel, but they got the freedom to do what they want to do. And so there are people that will do that. But then there's others that I say, hey, what's retirement look like for you? What do you want to do? And they're like, I don't want to do anything. I'm comfortable just kind of staying here, piddling around the house. I got a shop I'm going to hang out in and doing those kind of things. That's what my dad does. Some people just want to maybe take more of an active role with their grandkids and do some things like that. So, yeah, it's different for everybody, but I would tell you to have an idea of what you want to do, but, manage that expectation, because you can't go to the beach every single weekend or you're going to wind up getting tired of it. You just will. You can't play golf every day. you'll get tired of it. You can't play pickleball every day.
Yeah.
You'll get tired of it. You got to have a variety of things to do. So, just think through those things.
All right, Lee. So then let's talk about accounting for just changing expenses, because I think that we kind of have an idea of, or think we have an idea of what our monthly expenses are going to be like, but there's a lot of stuff that we just don't factor in.
Yeah, retirement expenses is a moving target, and it's one of the things that we try to drill down on as much as possible in the pre-retirement planning phase of things. I tell people it's gonna take you some time for you to figure out what your expenses are. You got to get into a routine and a new daily routine of how you're going to spend those 8 or 10 hours that you used to spend at work, and then really how you fill that time is going to likely determine what your expenses are in retirement. So, that we always hear this sort of rule of thumb that you need to retire and have 80%, your expenses are going to be 80% of what they were when you were working. That's just not accurate. I mean, it's not like if you retire on Friday, then on Monday, you're like, okay, what are the 20% of things that are going to go away? That's not reality. I mean, sure, there are going to be some changes that are going to automatically happen. I mean, maybe your commuting costs, you're not going to be driving to work every day, so maybe you save on gas, but maybe you go to Lowe's every day. Maybe you go piddle around or drive whatever, so maybe the cost of your transportation and all those kind of things doesn't really change that much. People always tell me, when you retire, every day is a Saturday. Think about it right now. If you are still working, what is the day of the week that you spend most money? Chances are it's probably Saturday. So if you retire and you got 7 Saturdays, your expenses could increase. Health insurance is another consideration. If while you were working, your company was paying health insurance, and now maybe you're not 65 and not Medicare eligible yet, maybe you got to foot the bill for health insurance for a few years. So anyway, there's a lot of different things there. You just got to figure it out. We like to, when we're planning here, being in our office, we like to keep expenses exactly like they are now when you retire and just see if we can make those numbers work. If we can't, then we got to cut some expenses or maybe figure out what we can do a little bit differently so that somebody doesn't feel like they're really taking a step back in retirement. Because, the last thing I want to do, is tell somebody they have to stay at home and not do anything. Why would you retire and just want to sit on your porch and wait on the mail every day? That's not what people want to do in retirement nowadays. Maybe that was it 50 years ago, but not today.
Yeah, and the truth is some expenses are going to go down like you expect, but there's some that are going to go up. You kind of have to understand that and just be ready for these things to change, even though you're trying to get that number narrowed down so that it's kind of where your expenses are, when you're retiring, but things are going to change and you got to be ready for that. So
100%. Hey folks, Lee Perkins here. I wanted to tell you about our brand new book called Next Phase, How to Retire in a Year or Less Without Regrets. It's all about helping you prepare for the next phase of your life, whatever that looks like for you. So, if you're ready to make the most of your next phase, or if you're already retired and aren't sure you're doing all you can to get the most out of your retirement, then you'll want a copy of this book. All you have to do is text Next Phase to 478-475-2050, and we'll send you a copy right away. You can also access additional resources and register for one of our upcoming workshops at our website, www.myretirementclarity.com. Thanks for listening. Now back to the show.
Again, be ready to adjust. The third kind of truth about retirement planning. You try to put a plan into place, Lee, that's going to get them exactly where they want to go, and every step along the way, but we all know that's not true, right? Things are going to change. You got to be ready to adjust with those changes.
That's true, 100% true. So one of the quotes that you always hear, Mike Tyson, allegedly he said this. I can't find exactly where the audio of him saying it, but he always says, or people quote him as saying, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Now, of course, Tyson's in the news now because he's supposedly going to fight Jake Paul coming up this summer. So I'm fired up about that. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's very rare that things work out exactly like you thought it was going to be in retirement. So I think it's crucial to have a plan in place for all the different areas of your retirement, but you got to be able to pivot when things change. And the one thing that is constant is change. I don't know of a single person, I don't have a single client that's been retired for more than 5 years that would honestly tell you right now that, hey, it's been exactly what they planned. It's worked out exactly like it has. I don't know that anybody would say that. And I'm not saying that in a good or a bad way. It's just things happen. I've got clients who retired and then they moved since then, and they didn't plan on it. I've got clients who died, and they certainly didn't plan on that. This is becoming more and more common, and I think we talked about it a couple of episodes ago. More and more clients now who have full custody of their grandchildren, and now they're sort of basically starting over. And last week I had a first. It was a client who called me and told me that he and his wife now have custody of their 4-year-old great-grandchild. That's the first time I've heard of that. So, I mean, he's 67, his wife is 66, and they have a 4-year-old that they are raising. So, I mean, there's no doubts that he's going to get, a lot of strange looks when he goes to donuts with dad or she goes to muffins with mom, when that child's in the first grade. So you never know what's going to happen. Certainly you can't plan for everything. So that's why I tell people, just enjoy the ride and be ready to make adjustments in the future, because things are going to change and eventually we all get punched in the mouth.
I don't know what fight he said that, Lee. I don't know if it's one of those just kind of folklore things or not, but it's a great quote and one that you can apply.
Yeah, it really is. It's kind of, it might be just folklore. It's like another one. Another favorite quote of mine is Abraham Lincoln said, "Don't believe everything you read on the internet." Just think about the timing of that. Not really sure Abe said that, but yeah, it's a great quote.
Yeah, not quite sure if that one's accurate or not. It's accurate. I don't know if it's genuine or not, but
yeah, exactly.
All right, let's close out with this one then, Lee. Don't be too proud to get help, right? You want to try to do it yourself. A lot of people are do-it-yourselfers. You want to try to get there and take care of your money on your own. But if you feel like you're overwhelmed or might have a few questions that you can't answer or just feel like you need a little bit of support, don't be too proud to get help.
Yeah, and I'll even take this beyond money. We'll come back to money in just a second. But as we get older, I think we tend to get a little more stubborn, especially men, where we don't want to we don't want to accept the fact that we may need help. My dad finally years ago started letting somebody cut his grass. And it's not, he can get out on the lawnmower and ride that all day, but the weed eating and all those kind of things, he's like, I can't do it anymore. I'm 54. I feel that right now. I don't want to weed eat and edge and blow my yard. I could sit on the lawnmower all day. It's therapy for me. And I had this conversation with my dad the other day, and he's like, son, you still got another 20. He's 24 years older than me. He said, you got a lot of time where you could do it all, but I don't want to do that. But a lot of people feel like they're giving up some independence if they pay somebody to do some of the things around the house that they don't want to do. So just do it. If you got the money, don't be too proud to ask for help. Now, flipping to the financial side where you were kind of referring to, man, get help sooner rather than later, because if you wait until you either make a mistake or maybe your mind is not as sharp as it is, I'm telling you, it gets messy when you don't have somebody watching after you and you don't have the cognitive skills that you used to. We're all going to go downhill at some point. Maybe we don't all get dementia or Alzheimer's. That is a kind of a worst case scenario in my opinion, because I've seen how that impacts people. But make sure that you've got things in place. Ask for help. Make sure you got power of attorneys for health care and financial. Have those things set up for you and for your parents if your parents are still living. We're going through it with a client right now, and he's on his own. He's a widower, and he's going downhill pretty quick, and we're just it's kind of a mess because none of those documents he never got them in place, and now we've got a caregiver and children kind of going back and forth, and it just gets messy, and it's not necessary. You can plan on these things. You just have to be proactive.
Yeah, and you pointed out, it's a lot of it is not just the financial side. You're so true, and asking for help in these different situations is okay, and it's something that you need to maybe expect to do and expect to need help. Very few people do this on their own completely, right?
Correct. Yeah, I think from a financial planning standpoint, people think, oh, well, I can handle my finances, and they think that just logging into their 401k account or their IRA account, checking the balance, and taking money out, they think that's all that. A lot of people think that's all that I do as an advisor, and that is 100% inaccurate. The money management part is only part of what we do. I mean, there's so much more that comes into it. I mean, take like we talked about in a past episode, talking about taking care of a widow or a widower when they've lost a spouse. You don't want to do those things on their own. So have somebody on your side to help you when things get difficult, because managing the money is the easy part, but tax planning and healthcare planning and legacy planning, estate planning, income planning, all those kind of things are super, super important, and most people simply overlook those.
Well, the good news is you don't have to ask for help from Lee to get help. We always provide an incentive for listening to the podcast beyond just the education and information that Lee provides. We also have a book offer as well.
Yeah, so people can get a copy of this book that we've written. It's called Next Phase, How to Retire in a Year or Less Without Regrets. It's just a short book I wrote. I guess we published it maybe about 3 months ago. Get people all over the country who are asking for the book, just because it's a great resource for somebody who's kind of contemplating retirement, or maybe somebody who's just at a transitional period of their life and they're looking to see what that next phase looks like. So if you want a copy of that, text Next Phase to 478-475-2050, and we'll send you a copy.
All right. Appreciate that, Lee. And again, if you want to set up a time to meet with Lee, just go to talkwithjlp.com. Talkwithjlp.com. You'll see a calendar, find a time that works for you, and you'll be able to set that meeting up that easily. All right, Lee, we will get out of here on that note. Appreciate the reality check on retirement planning. I know you're always there to help people, and we appreciate your time today.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Ben. Hey there, Lee Perkins here. If you're like a lot of folks, you've been listening to this podcast for a long time now. But I've got an important question for you. Have you implemented any of the ideas that we've discussed on the show? If you haven't, what are you waiting on? You know you're not getting any younger. So here's my challenge. Don't just consume the content. Our number one goal for this podcast is to help you close the gap between what you know and what you implement. So if you're ready to implement, take that first step today and visit www.talkwithjlp.com and schedule a 15-minute phone call with one of our advisors, and we'll help you close the gap between what you know and what you implement so you can enjoy the next phase of your life. Now is your time. Don't procrastinate any longer.
Investment advisory services are offered by J.L. Perkins Wealth Management, a registered investment advisor and insurance agency. Information is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute tax, legal, or investment advice. Always consult with a qualified tax, legal, or investment professional before taking any action.